Hey, 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 TGIF gang. Yes, it is Friday. Woohoo! Woo! Yes, another week just about to be put to bed. Do want to say that today marks the opening of the 2018 Special Olympics. So I just wanted to take a moment and wish all the athletes taking part in the Special Olympics this year all the best, lots of luck. Bring home those medals to your home countries. Anyway, so other thing I want to mention is, as usual, the Daily Dope is in the air. Hey there, gang. Yes, once again, it is time for the Daily Dope. And I am your host, Jeff McAleer. I also happen to be the Grand Poobah over at thegaminggang.com. And someone asked in the mailbag, what does Grand Poobah mean? And Grand Poobah is sort of from the Flintstones. Fred and Barney belong to that lodge, and they've got the Grand Poobah, who's the boss. So in reality, I am the founder and editor-in-chief of thegaminggang.com. Today is Friday, March 9th. Welcome aboard. If you have not joined me on previous shows, make yourself comfortable, relax. I'm going to talk about gaming. I've got a review coming up a little bit later on. I am going to be reviewing Sakura from Osprey Games, designed by Reiner Knizia. Just came out very recently, about a couple of weeks ago, week and a half, maybe somewhere around there. So I did an unboxing for it. Now I am actually going to do my review. Oh, wow. Got to settle in a little bit. I was running around all morning long. I was actually surprised I was able to get some news in. But one thing I do want to mention, and it sort of threw me for a loop, but I couldn't believe on Twitter there were people who were ragging about the Special Olympics, and I was sort of like, what? Really? How low can you be as a human being to throw shade at the Special Olympics? You've got to be a pretty horrible person. And I have to be honest, there were a couple of people who I follow that I noticed had posted or retweeted something really rude and obnoxious. And I unfollowed them right away. I was like, whoa, no way, no way. I am not following somebody who's making fun of people who have various physical and mental challenges. It's like, no, thank you. Anywho, I've got some news today. I got a good eclectic mix of news. I did want to mention a couple of things before I jump into the news. First off, I did my unboxing for At Any Cost, Mets 1870 from GMT Games. I almost said Victory Point Games. Why would I go there? No, it's a GMT game designed by my good buddy Herman Luttman. And during the unboxing, and I'm the first to admit, I am not all that well versed in the Franco-Prussian War. I know a little bit about it. I do recall I had a miniatures rule system, which we never actually played. I had picked it up because it looked cool, about the Franco-Prussian War. And I had mentioned the French had these very early machine guns. And I had said, yeah, what were they called? Something like chase pots or something like that. So Rosecrans Man on Board Game Geek was kind enough to shoot me an email. And it was funny because after I finished the show and I'm shutting down all the equipment, turning the lights all out, I thought to myself, Jeff, you're such a dope. The rifles, those were the French rifles, not the machine guns. And I was like, duh. So thankfully, Rosecrans Man over at Board Game Geek kindly pointed out, very nicely pointed out in an email to me that, first of all, the rifles were pronounced as chassepot. I believe that is close to pronunciation. And yes, those were the French rifles that were actually much better than the Prussian needle guns, which I did know that, right? I don't know why I said chase pot as far as the machine guns. And he also pointed out what the name of the machine guns, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce because I know I'll just completely butcher that. But a big thank you, as opposed to just posting a comment on the video saying, hey, stupid. First of all, it's not chase pot. And no, those were the rifles, not the machine guns. So thank you, Rosecrans Man, for such a nicely presented correction for me. The other item I was going to mention is I was going to share some news from Compass Games about an upcoming war game that looks pretty cool. Hopefully it's not a precursor of what might happen down the line here, but it's called Korea Fire and Ice, and it's a modern conflict simulation of war on the Korean Peninsula. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to share this news. And then when I went to Compass's website, the images were just so tiny. And there was no way I was going to be able to share these images for a news piece because it would look like a little postage stamp on your phone or tablet or monitor or TV screen or however you happen to watch the Daily Doe. So my apologies. I had tweeted that I was going to have a news piece from Compass Games. Turns out I will not. Hopefully maybe on Monday. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the news. And the early news pieces today sort of have a theme, whereas it's either games being re-released or updated or revamped. And the first one is something that I am actually really excited about. Although, to be honest, I know I won't get to see a review copy because it's from Z-Man Games. So, you know. But anyway, an Avalon Hill classic is about to make its return by way of Z-Man Games. And I have the dope. Yes, because History of the World is making a return. And I have to admit, it looks really, really nice. History of the World is a game of epic conquest set amid the rise and fall of mighty empires. Each game spans the dawn of civilization to the 20th century, as you take command of historical civilizations and spread your influence across the globe. The more territories you claim, the more points you'll score, but you'll have to drive your rivals out if you want to build the largest empire. Originally released in 1991, this remastered version of History of the World maintains the thrilling gameplay of the original game while bringing it into the modern age with a beautifully illustrated board and gorgeous new components. Marshal your forces and defeat your adversaries. At the end of the game, only the player with the most points will have their immortal name etched into the annals of history. You'll choose one of 40 historical empires to control during each of History of the World's 5 epochs, and they all come with their own strategic considerations. Each empire has its own number of starting armies, a starting territory, and unique abilities that help determine your course of action during that epoch. You might focus on securing resources to build monuments as the Egyptians, or you could become the Carthaginians and trample your opponents beneath the thundering beat of your war elephants. Yes! Whichever civilization you choose, your actions in one epoch echo into the next. Whoever can make the best use of their civilization's unique abilities will position themselves to rule through the ages. History of the World is for 3 to 6 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 2 to 3 hours, and will carry an MSRP of $69.99. And from the images I'm sharing, it looks like Z-Man Games has really put an extra special level of chrome on this classic game. I will admit that it has been a long, long time since I played History of the World. We're probably talking maybe late 90s or maybe mid 90s. So I don't recall a ton about the game, but I do recall I did like it. So that's something. But then again, you never know. I talked about when I was doing the review for Chariots of Rome from Victory Point Games. I played Circus Maximus when I was in high school, and I seem to have had a much better recollection of enjoying it more than when I actually saw it again and played just a few years ago. But this does look really, really nice. And I have to admit, $70 seems like a fair price tag for the game because you are going to be playing 2 or 3 hours. This isn't a $70 game where you're playing 20, 30-minute games. So yes. I do not have any sort of release date info yet, but because Z-Man Games is part of the whole Asmodee blanket, what do we want to call it, conglomerate, usually when they release the previews, we're looking at maybe within the next couple of months for a game release. So I will be keeping my eyes peeled for this, that is for sure. I forgot to mention before I jumped into the news, there is chat available if you're a first-time viewer, and it's not on screen because that helps keep the trolls away, but it is available on Twitch as well as YouTube, so if you want to say hello, or when I do my review for Sakura, if you've got a question or you want to see something closer, feel free, chime in. I will respond. All right, moving right along. As I mentioned, there are, like I said, there's a theme to the news today about revamps or reissues. And there is another classic coming out, although of a much more recent vintage than History of the World, and it will be coming in September from WizKids, and it is the Ultimate Edition of Mage Knight. Aha! Here's the dope, and I have to admit, I wish I had more images to include, but I'm not positive what exactly... Well, I know what's in this Ultimate Edition. I just don't know if it's going to look the same as before. Anywho, WizKids is excited to announce the return of the critically acclaimed, award-winning Mage Knight board game as Mage Knight Ultimate Edition. Designed by one of the world's leading game designers, Vlada Chivul. I know I've got his last name wrong. Current or new fans can find all of the previously released content, plus a few new and exciting components, all in one place. The Ultimate Edition includes the original base game plus all 3 expansions, The Lost Legion, Krang, and Shades of Tesla. And no, we're not talking about Nikolai Tesla, it's Tesla. It features comprehensive integrated rules, 5 all-new cards, alternate paint jobs on the miniatures, and a great price that can't be beat. Those are WizKids words. But that's not all. With this edition, WizKids will be partnering up with premium publishers from around the world to release Mage Knight in English, Spanish, Polish, Czech, that's surprising, German, Russian, Korean, Portuguese, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, and Italian. Now players can get Mage Knight in their preferred language and make their playing experience that much easier. The Mage Knight board game puts you in control of one of 4 powerful Mage Knights as you explore and conquer a corner of the Mage Knight universe under the control of the Atlantean Empire. Build your army, fill your deck with powerful spells and actions, explore caves and dungeons, and eventually conquer powerful cities controlled by this once great faction. In competitive scenarios, opposing players may be powerful allies, but only one will be able to claim the land as their own. In cooperative scenarios, the players win or lose as a group. Solo rules are also included. Combining elements of RPGs, deck building, and traditional board games, the Mage Knight board game captures the rich history of the Mage Knight universe in a self-contained gaming experience. The Mage Knight Ultimate Edition is scheduled for a September release and is for 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, and plays in approximately 2.5 hours. This jam-packed box will carry an MSRP of $124.99. I have never played Mage Knight. Now, there is a review of Mage Knight on thegaminggang.com. That's from back in the day when my best friend, Elliot Miller, who now operates voiceofe.com, had done a review. And I do recall in his review and during our discussions while he was playing it, he had felt there was actually a much better experience solitaire as opposed to other players, because I guess there was a lot going on under the hood, a lot of moving parts to the design, and just one player who kind of had an idea of how the rules work, as opposed to a bunch of different players who didn't know how it worked. I guess he found it a much easier experience. I don't know. I have never played. Next time I see Elliot, I should ask him if I can borrow it from him, because it does look cool, and a lot of people love it. So now that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be for me or for you, but I do understand a lot of people really like that game, so there must be a reason why. Don't know. You know, sometimes you run across a game that just doesn't click with you, and everybody else loves it. Pandemic is a great example in my case. I don't hate Pandemic. I mean, I would play Pandemic. It's just not a game that I would go out of my way to play. Moving right along, a third item, which is a revamped kind of reissue, is from Privateer Press, because they revealed the return of the kaiju battling game, Monsterpocalypse. I wonder if they're kind of jumping on board the whole Pacific Rim thing. No. Now, am I being jaded? I don't know. Anyway, regardless, here's the dope from Privateer. Monsterpocalypse puts you in control of a giant monster, or two, or three, and a small army of units like fighter jets, UFOs, or smaller but no less ravenous monsters that support your giant monster. Played out on a gridded city map populated by skyscrapers, factories, and other urban structures, your giant monster and his buddies wage war against another monster and his buddies. The action is governed by your management of a fistful of dice that alternates between two pools corresponding to your monster and your units, while strategic spots on the map provide extra power dice that can greatly increase your combat effectiveness. The fight lasts until only one monster or monster team is left standing to claim what is by then a pile of urban rubble. But then again, smashing buildings is half the fun of giant monster battles. For the revitalized Monsterpocalypse, we went back to the classic factions and characters and updated their designs before producing all new sculpts. By producing miniatures as hobby models that you get to assemble, paint, and customize, we're able to manufacture them in our own factory, which allows us to add a ton more detail to the figures that we weren't able to create when the figures were pre-painted. Painted? Not painted, Jeff. Pre-painted plastic. They're also quite a bit bigger and chunkier than the originals, which is going to make them even more fun to paint. At launch, there will be two agendas, the Protectors and the Destroyers. But because we know it can be hard to choose between rampaging across a city with a giant dinosaur or doing it with a massive robot, each agenda will contain multiple factions, can be mixed and matched to create your own custom kaiju dream team of destruction. Stats and abilities will be on cards that come with the models, and you'll be able to get all the dice and components you need in one of the two agenda starters releasing this fall. Privateer Press does have an announcement video. It's pretty short, so let's take a quick peek and get a better look at some of the figures coming in the new edition of Monsterpocalypse. Whoops! Oh yeah, nice going, Jeff. Yep. See, I told you I was running around today. I did not swap out the correct video, so give me a sec. I will take care of that right. Looks interesting, I have to say. Yeah, I apologize for the video. Yes. I also have another video that's going to be coming up, and I'm going to have to do that swapping on the fly thing with that too. Duh. Yes, as I mentioned, I was running. Well, I don't want to get into personal stuff, but yeah, I had to take care of some stuff today before the show went live, and thought I had taken care of everything to get the show all set up, but it looks like I didn't. Hey, it's called the Daily Dope for a reason, folks. I say it all the time. Anyway, there is no word yet on an exact release date for the new edition of Monsterpocalypse. I'm going to take a guess that we're going to see some copies at Gen Con, though, because Gen Con tends to be a big show for Privateer Press. Although, strangely enough, now I'm not overly familiar with a lot of Privateer Press stuff. I've seen their minis, I've seen their stuff close up, of course, at the conventions and that. But I have not really played Hordes and like the Iron Kingdoms RPG. I mean, it looks like it's a cool IP. But last year, now normally we would see on like the Thursday when the exhibit hall opens up, everybody goes racing off to the Privateer Press booth. So there's always a big line. Last year, when the convention, the exhibitor hall opened up, it wasn't over near the Privateer Press area. So I don't know if there was a lot going on, but I have to admit, later on in the show, it was really quiet at the Privateer area, and they have a big exhibit area at Gen Con. So I'm wondering, did they have a big release that sold out? I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, I don't know a whole lot about Monsterpocalypse. I do know when it first came out, it was super popular and people stocked up on a bunch of stuff and then kind of disappeared. I don't know if it just wasn't supported that much by Privateer Press or what. All right, anyway, moving right along, I actually have some new news. We're not talking about any kind of re-releases or revamps or anything like that, Ultimate Editions, but there are two new arrivals for Star Trek Adventures from Modiphius Entertainment. They are coming soon in print, and they are available right now in PDF with a touch of a catch. But here's the dope about the two new Star Trek Adventures releases. The Command Division supplement provides game masters and players with a wealth of new material for use in Star Trek Adventures for characters in the Command Division. The Command Division supplement includes detailed description of the Command Division, including its role in Starfleet, the various branches within the Command Division, the role of fleet operations, life as a Command Division cadet, and details on starship operations. Also, expanded 2D20 social conflict rules, enhancing social encounters and galactic diplomacy. What's wrong, Pinky? You're sneezing? Yeah, all right, I know. You're going to complain now, right? You okay? Yes, Pinky and Smokey are both down here with me today. I think Smokey's laying in her little bed that she's got down here. Hey, we may see a guest appearance from her. She likes to hop up on my lap. She may have dozed off. And Pinky, who you will never ever see on camera, is actually not that far from me. She's about 6 feet away. Anyway, also, hey, it's a live show. What can I tell you? It also includes an expanded list of talents and focuses for Command and Con characters, over a dozen additional starships and support craft command and pilot, including the NX, Nebula, Sovereign, and Steam Runner classes, as well as many shuttle types and the indomitable Work Bee. There's advice on creating Command Division focused plot components for your missions to test the mettle of your captain and flight controller. New rules on running Admiralty level campaigns that let you command entire fleets, as well as information on commanding star bases. There are detailed descriptions and game statistics for a range of command and con-focused NPCs and supporting characters. Now, the MSRP of the printed edition is going to be $34.99. The Beta Quadrant sourcebook provides game masters and players with a wealth of source material about the galaxy of Star Trek. Focused, obviously enough, on the Beta Quadrant, this 128-page hardback sourcebook contains information on the Federation's presence in the Beta Quadrant, including the homeworlds of Andoria, Earth, and Vulcan, material about the Klingon Empire and its history, including information on its core worlds of Konos, Bereth, Kittimer, and Rurapente. I'm pretty sure I got those right because I remember those from Star Trek. Information from the Romulan Star Empire on their history and politics, and information about their worlds, Romulus and Remus. A host of new Federation species to choose from during character creation, including Benzite, Bolians, Ephrosyrians, that I'm not familiar with, and Klingons. A selection of alien starships from the Klingon Empire, Romulan Star Empire, Gorn Hegemony, Orion Syndicate, and civilian craft. There's guidance for the Game Master on running missions and continuing voyages in the Beta Quadrant, with a selection of new non-player characters to enhance encounters. The MSRP on this 128-page hardcover will also be $34.99. I do not have an exact release date yet. I believe it's within the next couple months we should see those here in the US. I did mention that the PDFs are available now with a bit of a catch. There happens to be a bundle on DriveThruRPG which includes the PDFs of 9 books in the Star Trek Adventures line, which are available now or due out throughout 2018. It includes the currently available Star Trek Adventures core rulebook, which I thought was excellent. Check out my review. It also includes These Are the Voyages Volume 1, which is a mission book. Also coming soon are the Command Division Supplement and the Beta Quadrant Source Book. They are available to people who pick up this bundle. They're out now. I believe they released maybe yesterday. Also includes the Operations Division Supplement, the Alpha Quadrant Sourcebook, the Sciences Division Supplement, the Gamma Quadrant Sourcebook, and the Delta Quadrant Sourcebook. These are all supposed to be released this year. The bundle is $112 and includes, as I mentioned, the core rules, These Are the Voyages, the Command Division, and Beta Quadrant supplements right now. Okay, so this is a little bit odd, and I'm just letting you know that it is available on DriveThruRPG. I am not necessarily telling you that you should go and get the bundle. And this is why. Now, I'm not dissuading you either, right? On DriveThruRPG, people are a little kind of turned off something. You don't see it a lot, right? You don't see like pre-order stuff on DriveThruRPG. It's usually, hey, this is available now. Now, I'm not saying that pre-orders don't exist on DriveThruRPG. You just don't normally see them. So some people might be taken aback by shelling out $112 for 4 supplements, well, 1 core rule book and 3 supplements that are available, and then waiting for the other 5. That being said, $112 for all 9 of them is a smoking deal, folks, because you figure now the Command Division and Beta Quadrant supplements in hardcover are going to be about $35. Usually the PDFs are half that price. So just those 2 supplements alone, you're looking at about $35 of that $112. Now, if you've already purchased the core rules for Star Trek Adventures, as well as the These Are the Voyages, you will actually get a discount on the bundle. So I thought that was pretty cool too. And I have to admit, from the core book, now I haven't seen anything else from Star Trek Adventures. I should talk to Chris. Chris is going to be a guest on the show, Chris Birch from Modiphius Entertainment, probably in the next couple of weeks or so. But I should talk to Chris about maybe checking those PDFs out. Anyway, so I did want to float that out there that the hardcovers are on the horizon. The PDFs for the Command Division supplement and the Beta Quadrant supplement are actually out. I don't know when they're going to be available just for individual sale on DriveThruRPG, but you can get them right now as part of that bundle. All right, and I will mention, because I was talking about DriveThruRPG, yes, the GM's Day sale is still going on. Star Trek Adventures is not part of it from what I saw, or at least the bundle isn't part of it. But it is going to run through Sunday. It's running through the 11th. So, and I mentioned it before, take advantage if you can, because you're looking at over 40,000 items that are 33% off. And it also extends over to the Dungeon Masters Guild. And I think there's like another, what? I thought I saw 30,000, but that doesn't sound right. I would think maybe 3,000. So definitely take advantage of the sale while it's going on. And of course, if you're going to go over to DriveThruRPG, please stop at thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our drive-through banners. And if you happen to make a purchase, we will get a small portion of that sale. And I appreciate the folks who do that for us, because there are months that we actually pay for the hosting for the Gaming Gang through our drive-through RPG affiliate. So that's kind of cool. And our hosting is not cheap. We are not hanging out on GoDaddy or something like that. All right, then my final news item is something that I had kind of touched on yesterday. I said I had a little Kickstarter news, but it's not a game. It is game related. And I wanted to share a first look. Now, this Kickstarter just started today. And it is from 5 Color Combo, and it's for large size gaming mats. Yes, that is right. Large size gaming mats, and you have a choice of 5 designs right now at the launch. I'm sharing 4 of them. They measure 14 inches by 24 inches, and these play mats are designed to work well for anything from tabletop gaming to using them as oversized mouse pads. You can use these to define your play space, protect your valuable cards, and enjoy some pretty great art. There is a quick little video from 5 Color Combo. I already mentioned, sorry, video wasn't set up in advance. So I'm going to switch over to that video and kind of fix it on the fly.
Hey everybody, I'm Trent from 5 Color Combo. This Kickstarter is pretty simple. We want to make a large print run of playmats with amazing art, and we'll give you a great price to get there. When you back the campaign, you're picking the amount of playmats that you want. Then after the campaign is over, that's when you'll specify the art that you want. And that's because we're starting off with 5 different choices at the beginning, but with stretch goals, we're unlocking more and more to choose from. And that's it. So go find a piece of art that you like and back the campaign to get an awesome gaming playmat that you can use for a long time. Thanks.
That wasn't so bad. Swap it over. Hey, at least I didn't have another video there that started playing and go, whoa, wait. It's not IGW Games. Hold on. Hang on. Anyway, so the artwork looks really, really cool. Now I have to point out that there are 5 art styles to start off with, and there are some additional designs that are available as stretch goals unlock. When you back the project, you'll get to pick which playmat art you want from all the playmats that will be available through the Kickstarter. As I mentioned, there's 5 different choices to begin with, and there are some more that will unlock with stretch goals. So basically what you're doing is you're going to make your pledge, and then once the Kickstarter finishes, then you'll be able to pick which art design you want. The mats can be had for an $18 pledge level. So you may be sitting thinking to yourself, well, that's kind of cool, but I would have liked to have actually seen it a little better. Well, I'll tell you what. Your wish is my command, I guess we will say. Because Trent over at 5 Color Combo was kind enough to actually send me one. Yes. So this is kind of mouse pad material. Now this is a little thinner than what you'll see with some mouse pad materials, though, but still good. I like it's got a nice feel to it. It's got a little bit of a sheen. I have to laugh at this artwork, though. I mean, not laugh at it. I mean, I chuckle because it's sort of like, okay, so this guy here's sort of like, maybe he's like a wizard or something, and it's kind of like, yes, I want you to go off and I want you to do my bidding. And then this giant creature here is like, yeah, okay, boss. I was like, nice. So it is a good size. There's my hand. And I do mention, I do not have huge hands, but it's not like I have little tiny hands either. So, yeah, pretty nicely done. And because it's not real thick, because, sometimes you get the thicker material, like, good example is the Vegas Wits and Wagers mat. If you've ever seen my review for that or the preview I did of it, it's pretty thick and it's really big. So you really need to have a like a tube to like a shipping tube to roll it up and stick it in. No, this you don't really have to worry about that. You could easily just fold this up, put it in a backpack, take it with you. Looks like it will hold up to lots of gameplay. And like I said, I just love this artwork. And honestly, $18 for a game mat like this, that's a fair price. It's a good price. Just think of what some of the custom mouse pads, just a regular mouse pad, which is all of what, about this big. You're looking at about $10. So yeah, I thought this was a really, really nice game mat. In fact, I'm probably gonna be playing some Hero Realms this weekend with Cameron and some of his friends. So I am gonna actually bring this with, and I'm sure they'll be like, "Oh, dude, oh, how come I didn't get one of these?" It's like, why would you, right? I'm the guy who does the show, for crying out loud. All right, so very, very nice. So definitely go over to 5colorcombo.com and definitely check it out. All right, moving right along. I am going to do my review of Sakura in just a couple of moments. Maybe a little more than a couple of moments. Just a few minutes. Did want to jump in real quickly. One item from the mailbag, which has been asked a few times, and then something I'm going to kind of share with you there, gang. And once again, I do want to point out chat is available through Twitch as well as YouTube. So the questions that have been asked, and I did kind of cover this on a much earlier show. So I don't expect people to have to go back watch another show just for me to answer this question. Because what is today? Today's episode 63? I think it's 63 that I've done. Pretty crazy. And so the question is effectively, so during convention season, when I'm out covering conventions, what's going to happen with the Daily Dope? Well, okay, obviously enough, there will not be episodes of the Daily Dope when I'm out at a convention, covering a convention. It'll be impossible to pull that off. What I am going to try to do, though, because in the past it used to always be that I would have like interviews with people from different companies, be it comic book companies or gaming companies for the vast majority of the time. And then I'll wait till I get back from the show, and then I do some editing, and I do all the little graphics, and I do the little lower thirds that pop up and things like that. But of course that takes some time to do. So there are a lot of times that, let's say on a Friday, I interview, let's say, Monty Cook, right, from Monty Cook Games. Well, that interview with Monty's not going to go up until at the earliest Monday of the following week. Probably more like Tuesday. I am probably not going to do that. What I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to kind of do just the raw interview file, try to trim it a little bit. I don't do a ton of editing for video interviews anyway, because it's super tough, because those cuts look really bizarre in my opinion. I know some people watch all the videos with all the jump cuts and all this other stuff. To me, that's irritating. But I will actually look to try to get those interviews and coverage up that same day. Maybe with some pretty basic intro and outros to them that I'll do in advance. But no, there will not be episodes of the Daily Dope during specific cons that I'm at. And the con season's starting real soon. It's starting next month. Yeah. And I don't know how I'm going to actually pull off some of these cons this year. That's why I'm going to have that crowdfunding project start middle of next month. But the first convention we're hitting is C2E2 in Chicago, so thankfully that's local. And I'm trying to set up some interviews with some comic book creators out there. Keeping my fingers crossed on that one. I did hear Critical Role is going to appear. And yes, I sit there and I talk about Critical Role and I say, hey, you know what? It's not a great way for you to learn to be like a game master or a player. I don't tell you not to watch it. If you enjoy it, by all means, watch it as often as you want. Watch it every week. Binge watch it if you have to. I have no problem with that. All I ever say is, don't expect watching these shows that are, you know, like Critical Role or Acquisitions Inc. and stuff like that. I mean, there's a slew of shows out there. Renegade Game Studios just announced that they're doing a show. I don't know if it's a podcast or it's video. And it's going to be the second edition of Outbreak Undead. And I think Ivan is it Norman? I've interviewed Ivan, and he's really nice. Way back in the day when Outbreak first came out, super nice guy. And I think Ivan is actually like the game master for it. So I'm not saying don't watch these shows. I get like emails from people saying, "Oh, I can't believe you rip on, Critical Role," and I was like, okay, I've mentioned them like 2-3 times in 60 some shows for a few minutes, and I've never said don't watch them. I'm just saying don't expect that to be how your role-playing game is going to be with your friends. Anywho, I might try to reach out and see if I can do an interview with some of the folks involved with Critical Role. Don't know. I have no idea. C2E2 is a kind of odd show. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but as a press member, it's a little tough because they've really cracked down on what you can film, and they won't even let you film the panels anymore. And last year there was an awesome Frank Miller Stan Lee panel, and it was super funny. It was really entertaining, and we were told, and we've got press passes. I mean, it says we're the press, we're media. We were told nobody was allowed to film any of the panels. And I think part of it is because Reed Pop is kind of doing their own stuff on their own channel, which is fine, it's okay. But I am trying to reach out to do some interviews because Image Comics reached out to me and said, hey, we've got these folks. Who would you like to talk to? So I kind of shot them back a list of some of their creators I'd like to chat with. So anyway, yes, sorry, kind of went on a little bit longer about that, but no, there will not be episodes of The Daily Dope during convention season, probably not the day before I leave. I will try to do shows on Mondays after the convention, if I can, fingers crossed. So yes, so there will be kind of a break. Anyway, the other item I was going to mention is if you like the show, if you enjoy kicking back, you don't have to watch every day. I don't expect people to watch every day. I know I've got some war gamers out there who like to tune in and catch the Wednesday shows, and they probably don't watch other shows, because I'm not talking about games that are, you know, catering to their, you know, their interests. But if you do dig the show, do me a favor, share it with your friends, tell your friends about it, or go on social media and tweet something or share something on Facebook or wherever. Because I got to admit, if I hit episode 100 and the majority of the shows are still pulling like 50 views, I don't know if I'm going to continue doing the Daily Dope. Because when I did the regular Gaming Gang videos, I mean, granted, a lot of times it depends on the game, obviously enough. And it also depends on the company who that game is from. Because you'd be amazed. I'll do a review of some game and say, wow, yeah, it's really good, I enjoyed it, blah, blah, blah. And then the company that actually produces the game doesn't even share it. Doesn't even tweet anything out about it. So, you know, that doesn't help as far as viewership. But yeah, to be honest, I mean, if I'm sitting here and, you know, like the non-wargaming shows are pulling in 50, 60 views after a couple of weeks, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm wasting my time because I'm having fun. I'm having fun, and I know there are viewers out there who watch the show pretty much every day, or they watch it at least once a week, and they're having a good time. They know this isn't, you know, some big like scientific experiment or anything like that. My attitude is, hey, we're having fun, we're talking about games. But I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot of work is going into this, and then I see stuff where it's like, wow, that I aired that like a week and a half ago, and it's only got 30 views, huh? I don't get worked up about it, but I sort of think, wow, you know, there was quite a lot of work that went into putting that show together, even though it doesn't look like it. here in the Duct Tape Studios. What kind of work? What are you talking about, Jeff? Give me a break. All right, so anyway, without further ado, let's talk about Sakura from Osprey Games. Let me get a sip here. I don't take myself that seriously, folks. You know that already, I think. All right, so Sakura is from Osprey Games. It is designed by Reiner Knizia. It's for ages 10 and up, so it's a perfect fit for today's theme, which is pretty much, oh my gosh, why is that popping up? Jeez! Boy, I tell ya. Oh, I know why. I didn't realize that all these other images were still in here. There you go. See, that's what happens. I haven't been putting up like a little, you know, little slide for the games that I've been doing reviews for. I thought, oh yeah, you know, I should start doing that. Yeah, okay. Anyway, Sakura is designed by Reiner Knizia. It's for ages 10 and up. It is for 2 to 6 players. Takes about 20, 30 minutes to play. And it does carry an MSRP of $30. So we're going to move over to the other camera here and take a quick peek. So, all right. So this is Sakura here. This is the box. Nice box. I kind of dig how it kind of folds open here. One thing I like too is cool little plastic storage tray. You don't. Some of these smaller games with, you know, smaller footprint games that don't have big MSRPs, sometimes they just throw everything in a box. I'm not saying Osprey does this, but you know, a lot of companies do. So I like the fact they got a little plastic insert in there. And I did an unboxing for this last week. It was on last week's show. Pretty sure. I think it was last Friday. You know, sometimes these shows all kind of merge together into one long show. But anyway, so I did the unboxing. We took a look at some of the components in that. So let's set this up, because I had the 5-color combo mat out here. And I will actually kind of zoom in a little bit too for everybody. I think I can. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. All right. Reach up here. Whoops. That wouldn't be good if I knocked that over. I'm telling you, It's Duct Tape Studio. It's called that for a reason. Okay, so the premise of Sakura is that each of the players is a painter. And it's in Japan. Sakura actually is a cherry blossom tree. And, or it's, what was it? Horse meat? Raw horse meat? Well, trust me, for this game, it's not raw horse meat. It's cherry blossoms. So anyway, so the premise of the game is each of the players are a painter, and they are looking to, well, let's flip this over this way. And they are looking to capture the essence of the emperor as the emperor goes and he tours through his garden. He makes his annual pilgrimage through this garden. Let's bring this so everybody can see everything. There we go. And every year, these painters try to, you know, they compete with each other to try to get the best representation of the emperor as he travels through the garden. So this token here, this meeple, this is the emperor. So we've got the emperor, and then, as I mentioned, this is for 2 to 6 players. We also have the various colors, and these represent the painters. So each of the players. Nice chunky wood. These are really nicely done. Whoops, as one goes flying off. You're also going to have these tokens here. These are victory point tokens. So you've got these tokens. Then each of the players is going to have 5 tokens of their own color, like so. And this represents honor. Now, the victory point tokens and the honor tokens are equal as far as victory points. So you just kind of consider these as tokens at the end. But this is the honor of each of the players. So each of the players will start with 5 of these. And the premise of the game is that the emperor is going to move around, and the emperor is going to stop at various different locations to take a look. He just pauses, and he's taking a look here at this cherry blossom tree. Then he comes over here, and he's going to be looking at this other Sakura tree. And then he finishes up at the Sakura tree that has a little shrine. I mean, I take a guess it's probably, what is the religion? Is it Shinto? I'm going to take a guess. It's probably supposed to be a Shinto shrine. So that's how the emperor is, what he's traversing through this garden. And each of the players, let's say we've got 4 players here. Let's go blue, green, red, black. So each of the players would get their tokens, right? So they've got their honor tokens. Got red over here. I'm just putting these off to the side because we really don't necessarily need to see these tokens, right? Just let's remember that they're around, okay? And that represents, as I mentioned before, the honor of each painter. Because you'll lose honor if you bump into the emperor. You've got a deck of cards here. And each of the players. Now, there are some variants for the 2-player game. A couple of variants for a 2-player game. But we're going to take a look at this as if we've got 4 players playing. Because the game really is best with 4 to 6 players. The more players you can get for this game, the better, in my opinion. You'll enjoy the game more with 4 to 6 players than you possibly would with simply 2. And I'll kind of explain that in just a bit. So each of the players is going to get 5 cards. And I will point out, I do not like the card stock on these cards. It's kind of a, it's almost like a muddy feel to them. And they stick together really easily. So you got to be really careful when you're, dealing these cards out or drawing a card because they do stick. Yeah, see, it almost feels like I've got 1 too many in here. No, I guess they didn't stick. So there's 5 there. There's 5 there. And 5 here. Of course, some folks out there are probably thinking, well, geez, Jeff, just sleeve the cards. Yes, I know, you can sleeve the cards. It's just sometimes, well, it's just me. Okay, so if I've got a game that I know is only going to get played every once in a while, I'm not going to go sleeve the cards. I don't. Sometimes what I will do is I might have some sleeves on a game that gets played every once in a while, and I know which game that is. And if we're playing another game that we haven't really played much, and I know the cards are about the same size, I'll swap sleeves. But, a $30 game that may not get a ton of gameplay, or repeated play, I should say, you may not necessarily go in that direction as far as getting your cards sleeved. Right, so each of the 4 players are going to have their 5 cards. So we're going to take a look at some of the cards we're not using right now. See what I mean about sticking? I know those are 2 cards. Yep, right there. Yep. Did not like that. Did not like that at all. I'm just looking through because I want some specific indicators. Okay. So first off, when you look at the card, and I like the artwork. I think the artwork's very nicely done. Has a very anime-ish look to it. I dig it. I dig the artwork. The only knock I've got against the artwork is a lot of the art is repeated. There aren't a ton of images. But then again, we are talking about an MSRP of $30. All right. So, it's not as if I sit there and I think, okay, well, all 60 of these cards should all have unique art. No, I don't mean that at all. So the first thing you're going to look at is on the bottom of each of these cards is a number. So when you are playing your cards and all the players are going to reveal their cards at the same time, simultaneously, you're going to actually resolve these cards in numerical order from the numbers you see at the bottom, from the lowest to the highest. So it's the first thing you want to notice about your cards. Then we've got a couple of different icons here. So up top, the first thing is going to say, okay, so what does the Emperor do? And whoever's card this is that's being played, for an example, we see plus or minus 1. So that means that player can decide to move the Emperor either 1 space forward or 1 space back. Then we see this other icon here. This purple icon represents the player, their token, their painter, or all the players. So for an example here, this is showing that, and here, I'll show you the examples. And it's in the book right here. So it's talking about, okay, so that's an example of the Emperor. And then this is well, it's not always the Emperor. Some of these, the arrow pointing up and the arrow pointing down does represent the painter. And then we see here, now usually it's pretty simple with the player actions. It'll just say, oh, you're moving this number of spaces, or you have an option of moving forward or back this many spaces. Then right here, that lets you jump. It's going to take the painter who is, what? No, okay. For a second I was like, what? I thought I was saying the last painter. I'm like, what? That's not how we were playing it. No. Okay, so it allows your painter to jump to the next open space. And then this one is also for your guy can count the number of painters between you and the Emperor, then move 1 space forward for each. So it's basically moving all the other painters. Pretty easy stuff. Some of the players took a little bit of time trying to figure out some of these things. Now, obviously, when it's saying, okay, plus minus, yeah, that's pretty easy. Right, so for an example here, so what we're going to do, I will give you an example of what's going on. And, you know what, let's do it like here. All right, so let's say you're in the middle of the game, and this is how it's progressing so far. And we got the Emperor over here, got the red player. Let's do that. Let's do it like this. So the first thing you would do here is the player, let's say this is the blue player, right? So the blue player plays his card, and he says, oh, okay, so I can move the Emperor forward or back. Now, you never want to bump into the Emperor because you're going to lose honor. So it's basically costing you victory points if you bump into the Emperor. So when you're playing your cards, you're looking at one way, trying to get closer to the Emperor, as well as trying to move other players further from the Emperor or force them to bump into the Emperor. So for an example here, this player may say, okay, well, I'm going to move the Emperor one back. Because remember, I'm saying this is the blue player down here playing this card. So that would be the first part of that. Then the second part is that everybody's going to move one closer to the Emperor. So you take a look, you're going to count up the number of painters between you and the Emperor. So 1, 2. So you got 2 painters that are the closest to the Emperor. And then you get to move 1 space forward for each. Now that's 1 space here. You cannot have 2 painters occupying 1 space. So, unfortunately, that next space would be to the Emperor. Boom, you bumped into him, right? It's like, blue player, what are you thinking? Why would you do that? Because that blue player would lose 1 of their honor, and then they have to move back 3 spaces from the Emperor. And when you're talking about spaces, you're talking about open spaces. So in a 4-player game, these bridges here that we see are actually 3 spaces. If you're playing, I want to say it's 3 players or fewer, 2 or 3 players, then the bridge is actually considered only 1 space. So as an example here, the blue player would have lost 1 honor. Now he's got to move back 1, 2. Now he's at 3. So now he's way back there because they weren't paying attention. They weren't thinking. So that is one aspect of the game I kind of like, is that you got to actually kind of figure out, okay, well, where am I going after this? Whereas if we had the same situation and the blue player said, okay, well, I'm moving the Emperor up 1, then you'd say, oh, okay, great. I get to move 2 spaces because there's 2 painters ahead. It's kind of like a catch-up mechanic. So I've been 1, 2. Hey, look, now I'm the closest painter to the Emperor. Right, so that's an example of one of those cards. Then we've got this card where it says, okay, well, the Emperor's going to move back 1. So the Emperor's kind of just, you know, roaming around, doing his thing. He's the Emperor. He can do whatever he wants. And then this one here, you got this indicator here. Let's say this is the green player, right? So the green player would be able to place their painter on the first empty space in front of the next painter ahead of you. Well, guess what? If they did that, they're going to bump into the Emperor. So, which would move them back and cost them honor. So the cool thing is that you actually have a hand of 5 cards. So you're going to choose which one of the cards you're going to use in your turn. But the thing is, the trick is, everyone's going to play the card at the same time. There's a lot of chaos going on with this game, because you might sit there thinking, oh, okay, well, I've got this card here. It's a number 2. I have to assume the number 2 is probably going to be the lowest card that's played on this turn in this round. And what you see here, like this arrow here, this says when you get an arrow pointing down, it's talking about the painter who's furthest away. So the painter who's furthest away from the emperor would get to move up 3 spaces. Then they would get to move their own painter 3 spaces. Now, that says they have to move the 3 spaces. It's not plus, minus. It's not giving you an option. You're going to be moving the 3 spaces forward. I'll give you an example of another card. Yep, there we go. So when we have the arrow pointing up, the green arrow, that's representing the painter who is closest to the emperor. So if a player played this card, that means that the painter who is closest would have to move back 2 spaces. And remember, it's the open spaces. So say as an example in this situation that, whoops, here's the card here. That the player played that card, and let's say that they were the, let's say there were a black player played that. Right, so we got that card there. So blue player's the closest. That's 1 space back. That's 2 spaces back. Black player goes, okay, well, I get to move my painter up 1 space. Oh, bingo. Now they're next to the emperor. A lot of times you don't want to be right next to the emperor because all these different cards playing moves the emperor around a little bit. And like I said, he's the emperor. He does what he wants to do. He just kind of roams all over the place. And you don't want to be bumping into the emperor because it loses you those honor points, these honor tokens. So you're going to continue doing this. And of course, after you've played your card and you resolve the round, everybody gets to draw another card. So you're always going to have a choice of 5 cards to play from, to choose from. So what will eventually happen is on one card, you'll finally have the emperor stop on this space. And you can see it's a different color space. It's got the little cherry blossom petals sitting there to remind you. And it also shows the points here. So it's going to say, okay, so whoever's closest, let's say it looks something like this. Whoever's closest to the emperor is going to get 3 victory points. Now, it's funny. I flipped this upside down. I had it right side up the first time, and then I was kind of like, well, no, I want it to go right to left, and then dummy me has it sitting upside down. All right, so we had the emperor here. Let's just say it looks like this. Okay, so as you can see right here, I think we can zoom in a little bit more too. All right, so when we look at this cherry blossom tree, see, it's showing the score. There's the emperor. Zoom back out a little bit. The red player would get 3 victory points because it's going to show, okay, who's close to the emperor? Okay, so red player would get 3. Then the green player would get 2. And then the blue and the black player would each get 1. No, I'm sorry. The third player would get 1. Fourth player gets nothing. Now, if you were playing in a 6-player game, then you would have 3 to the closest, 2 to the next closest, and 1 for the third and fourth painter, with the 5th and 6th painter getting 0. So you'll just continue to move the emperor along, moving back and forth, and you're moving up and down and trying to play different cards to swap spaces with other painters and stay away from hitting the emperor. And I have to laugh because it's like, oh, well, you know, if you bump into the emperor, you lose honor. And the reality would have been, if you had bumped in, let's say, saying this is Japan, right? Back in the day, you bumped into the emperor, it wouldn't have been like, oh, I've been dishonored. It'd be like, psh, that's the end of you, pal. You're not even supposed to look at the emperor. So the game just progresses until the Emperor gets to the final spot. And for the final Sakura tree, it's 4 victory points. 4 of these tokens to first place, the closest, I should say. 3 to second, and then 4 for closest, 2 for the next closest, and then 1 for third or fourth in a 6-player game. 4-player game, furthest away, would not win. Then, of course, all you're going to end up doing is, once that's taken place, you're going to count up all your tokens. You're going to count up your honor tokens that you have remaining. Hopefully you didn't bump into the Emperor too much and end up having to toss those out. And you're going to include your victory point tokens that you've earned from these 3 locations, and hopefully you've earned some as well. What helps prevent this game from being a complete madhouse is that when a card is played that moves the Emperor into a scoring space, even if everybody else still had a card that needs to be resolved, that's been tossed out there. So let's say for an example, this card is in number 5. So this was the lowest card in the group. That resolved first. The Emperor would move. That player would get to perform their action. And then you'll do the scoring. So the other cards that were played, if there's still cards that need to be resolved, they will just be discarded. They will not take place. Because otherwise, you'd be just moving the Emperor all over the place. The game would never end. Because if you had to sit there and wait for the last card to move the Emperor to a scoring space, lots of luck with that. And that, in essence, is how you play Sakura. Pretty simple to get into. Like I said, some of the players just had a little trouble figuring out what some of the icons meant on the cards. That's why I took a quick peek. I was like, wait a second. Huh? The last player? No, that's not for the last player, is it? I was looking at the wrong icon. I'm like, okay, so that is how we were playing it. All in all, I find Sakura to be a nice game. It's a nice game. It's not reinventing the wheel. This is nothing. There's no mechanic in here that we haven't seen umpteen times before, especially if you play a lot of games. And it's not as if it's a revolutionary design by Reiner Knizia. It is a new design. I'll give him that. But it does utilize a lot of mechanics. Well, not a lot. There aren't that many mechanics in it. But it does utilize mechanics from umpteen other games and games that Reiner Knizia has designed. So I wouldn't say that this is the name of Reiner Knizia being on the box is really a selling point for this, because it's not something really super fresh. That said, I don't want you to think that Sakura is a bad game, because it's not a bad game. It's a fun game. It's a nice game. Just sitting around with some friends who there's like take that in the game, but it's really not. People can't get upset with you if your card moved them into the Emperor, because you're all laying down your cards at the same time. They're all revealed at the same time. So a lot of times you don't really know who you'll end up moving into the Emperor or moving further away from the Emperor, especially if your card's not the first one that gets resolved. So there's a little bit of take that, but nobody should get upset at other players like, oh, you're picking on me. It doesn't work that way. So very easily gotten into by family gamers, for lighter gamers. It's a good game for people who don't have a lot of games, or who like to get together with 4, 5, 6 different people, play a game for about a half hour, kind of kicking back. Maybe they're enjoying a adult beverage, a glass of wine, something like that, and they're not real heavy gamers. or, like, I don't like to use the term like a gamer's gamer because that sounds kind of odd, but someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in some of the lighter games and that, they're going to get a kick out of it. It's a nice game to bust out with, like grandma or the aunts and uncles when they come over for, a holiday. It's perfect for the kids. It's for 10 and up. Okay, yeah, 10 and up. I could see you going a little younger than that because it's not really that complex. You're just counting or subtracting, adding or subtracting. But that said, like I said, it's a nice game, not revolutionary. I dislike the card stock because, like I was showing you before, these cards very, very easily stick together, and that's kind of a pain. And then just the feel of them, it's kind of a, I don't know, it's like a muddy feel. It's a weird kind of feel to these cards. Not terrible. I mean, it's not a game breaker, but like I said, I just don't care for I mean, like I said, the artwork's fine, and it's just the finish on these cards is not, because look, prime example, I just tried to draw one card, and there I ended up with 2 cards. Don't like that. Also, I can't see this being a game that gets off your shelf a whole lot. Like I said, it's a sweet kind of game. It's a nice game, pretty friendly, but it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. I could see, it coming out on occasion, or when you have friends coming over who don't really play games and stuff like that, kind of introduce them. But this is not going to be like a must-play game. This is certainly not a game where you're like, oh yeah, gotta have it. You need to have this game in your collection. But overall, it's not a bad game. There's nothing wrong with the game. Mechanically, there's nothing wrong with it. Thematically, it looks nice. Yeah, I think it's a pretty nice game. I mean, it's not like the theme is like baked into the design or anything like that, but yeah, it's got a cool little Japanese look to it. I mean, Japanese, like 17th century, somewhere around there, maybe. So yeah, it's just not something I'm like, wow, you gotta have this game. So all in all, not being a bad game, but not being like a super thrilling game, I give Sakura a 6.5 out of 10. It could be added to people's collections if they're light gamers, they don't play a ton of games, and like something as a nice, relaxing kind of distraction. People who play a lot of games, I don't know. I don't see it really jumping out and being added to their collection. All right, so there you have it. That is the end of a week. Wow. Boy, I'll tell you what. 9 out of 10 shows have been reviews. Wow. 9 of the last 10 have been reviews. And on Monday, I've got another review. I'm going to slow down on some of the reviews, though, folks, because, for one, I'm going to run out of stuff. It's not, my name is not Vassal, right? My last name's not Vassal. I don't have, like, shipping containers full of stuff to review showing up in my house. Plus, I don't want, like, every free moment of my life spent playing games so I can do reviews of them. So I am going to start getting some more, I'm going to start doing interviews, obviously enough. Let's start trying to set some of those up over the weekend. See if we might be able to get an interview in next week or a week after that. But I am going to review Tokyo Ghoul, the card game from Shinobi 7 and Ninja Division and Funimation. Not sure what kind of availability this has, or once it's gone, if it'll make a return, because Shinobi 7 broke off from Ninja Division Games. Maybe I'll find out something about that and talk about that on Monday. But yes, I will be reviewing Tokyo Ghoul on Monday. The rest of the week next week, I'm not sure. I'll have a GMT unboxing for Main Battle Tank, one of the expansions, I'm sure, on Wednesday. But other than that, I'm going to play it by ear. All right, so that is today's show. Wow, a lot longer than I expected. I was thinking maybe about an hour. Hey, what can I tell you? I I'm chatty. So, when you're not watching the Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching and putting up with my craziness for another episode. I will be back on Monday, so until then, have a very safe weekend. Have a fun weekend. Hopefully you get some gaming in. I know I will. And I will see you next week.